works so you can play.
Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and this is another review video for some terrain made specifically for Infinity. And today we are going to talk about MicroArt Studios. They, I think, if I'm correct, were the first to become an official terrain creator for Infinity. They also create tokens. Most of the tokens that you see, if not actually all of the tokens that you see us use in our Infinity battle reports, were purchased from MicroArt Studios, and I love using them. We actually bought those. So they sent us this terrain for free, but this video is still not sponsored. They did not sponsor us to do this, so I'm just going to tell you exactly what I think about it. And but we actually bought the tokens, and the tokens are great. You have to have them. You basically have to have those tokens in order to play. But anyway, I am here to talk about this terrain. And of course, as usual, just like in the Bandua Wargames review that I just did, you can see the link in the video description below. I want to talk about three main things. One is the level of complexity and how easy they are to assemble, and also their durability. Number two is how they look. And number three is their functionality actually on the table. Now, I must put a disclaimer out there. I don't own all of MicroArt Studios' terrain, so I haven't had a chance to use all of it. And I know they have a lot more than what I actually have on the table right now. So there's going to be other stuff out there that I haven't seen, and so this is really a review on the different components that they sent me. And they actually have sent me a lot of components. For example, we've got their kind of normal habitation buildings. So that's like this one, and this one. We've got their Catwalk system. We've got, I can't remember what this thing is called, but it's specifically made for one of the scenarios in Infinity. We've got their acrylic advertisements, which are really cool. We've got like their barrels and chest systems. We've got their broken walls and wall systems. We've got some of their generator stuff, which is actually hardboard, I believe, or it's something where they fill it. I don't remember all the technical details. It doesn't matter. You don't need to know all the technical details to enjoy your terrain and know how much you like it. And so we do have a good sampling here of all the different things that they use. So let's go through the three main components. Number one, the ease of assembly and durability. You might wonder why I put those two together. It's because those two actually go together big time. When you assemble these, one thing you'll notice with MDF terrain is that if it's hard to assemble, you often break it. And I've had personal experience with that, not with MicroArt Studios, but with other MDF terrain, where I just like start to put it together and all of a sudden it's like snap. Because it's MDF. It's not like super hard plastic or pewter. It is, it's wood. It's really what it is, which is great. But it's also, less durable normally. So this stuff, I would say, if we're going to rank it and how easy it is to assemble, it's a bit of a pain. And if you look at it, you can probably see why. Especially these Catwalk systems, they are incredibly intricate. There is so much to these that it is quite hard to assemble, and it takes a lot of time. I heard not one, but many complaints from Adam from greenleafterrain.com as he was assembling these. We'll talk about how they look and how they function, but when it comes to assembly, they are hard. So whereas like Bandua Wargames, I ranked as more of a beginner and intermediate, these are definitely more an intermediate, even up to advanced in order to assemble. So they do take more time. Painting-wise, it's just as hard as the other ones. I wouldn't say they're any harder to paint. You can just airbrush all these things and then just paint some different things on them. But the acrylics, you don't have to worry about, you can just attach those after you've painted them. So for painting, no problem. None of them really have that big a deal, but assembly is hard, except for the simple stuff like the walls that already come assembled in these barrels and things like that. I'm talking more about the catwalks and the buildings. So a bit of a pain to put together. Don't think that just because you're buying this MDF terrain that you're magically going to have this table's worth of terrain delivered to your doorstep. What you get delivered to your doorstep with any of these companies is a very heavy box of sheets of MDF that you break out the pieces and then you assemble it and paint it yourself. It ends up being really awesome, and it's definitely usually looks better than stuff that you would make yourself. But yeah, you have to put a lot of time into assembling and painting it. So, second thing, how do they look? Well, out of all of the companies that create terrain for Infinity, MicroArt Studios rank among the top for how good they look, and especially because of their use of acrylics to create things like these advertisements. Like these are actually, you can kind of see, if I move it over my face, they're not transparent, they're translucent. And so they create this really cool effect on the table. And the same thing with these crates, they just look really good. You've got all these acrylics on these buildings. You got like this acrylic right here. I like their blending use of acrylics and the MDF, and I've really enjoyed that. Or things like these little generators, all of that works really well. Their catwalks, as much as they are a pain to put together, look really cool. They're probably the coolest looking catwalks out of all of the ones that we have used. And then you get cool things like this, which comes off like this. So you got these really neat advertisements, these billboards. So it brings that whole a bit of anime feel to the whole thing. Not that I'm a huge fan of anime, but I don't mind all the colors and things on the table. After you've played 40K, Fantasy, and War Machine for a while, you kind of get used to muted colors. And this just kind of, with all the acrylics, like how you paint them obviously will change the colors, but the acrylics really bring out a lot more colors there. So at least I've already done a review in Bandua, so compared to Bandua, MicroArt stuff looks a lot better. Now, the last thing is functionality. And this is where they get a bit of a lower ranked marking, because some of the stuff is just not as practically used on the battlefield as others. For example, these habitations. Now, some people are definitely going to disagree with me on this, but I find that these are hard to use. And the main reason for it is because, well, this one has a ladder right here, but for the most part, there's no easy way to get your miniature from there up to here. Even though there's a ladder, for the most part, you're going to have like a tall building like this, and it's hard to represent your miniature just partially going up. Now, if he has like super jump or super climb or climbing plus, then he might be able to get up there in one move. But other than that, it's really hard to represent where your miniature is. Now, they do come apart, and this is really cool. It's something that we never use in our battle reports just because I find it inconvenient. But these come apart, so you have your multiple levels. And so you could actually have, and you have doors and everything. There's actually doors that go on there. I just don't have them on the table here. So you could actually have your miniature go inside or go up the different levels. Or even in this big one, there's specific spots where it shows where your miniature would go up throughout the levels. Now that's cool and all. The reason we don't do that in battle reports is, one, because it complicates things a little bit. It's hard to keep track of where your miniatures are. But also because if there's a miniature on top and the miniature inside, and you want to move the miniature inside, you got to lift this up. And they're all metal miniatures. Infinity is all metal. We know what that means is that they fall over easily, they chip easily, they break easily. So having to lift up your buildings and move them around is a bit of a pain. The catwalks are really cool. They're hard, they're a little finicky. They're all modular. Like this piece comes off, this piece, or these different pieces come apart. Like I can show you by taking this out right here. You can see this comes off. In fact, this piece, the bottom piece even comes off of the middle piece, and the middle piece comes off of the next part. They're a little finicky to put together, but I find that once they're put together, they're quite snug and they won't fall apart. So the catwalks, good. These buildings, you rarely see them in our battle reports because I love the Bandua Wargames buildings a lot more. Even though these look better than the Bandua Wargames buildings, we don't use them hardly at all. However, the rest of their stuff, the walls, the crates, the acrylics, all that, the catwalks, you definitely see a lot in our battle reports because they are very functional for providing cover. You need, as I will talk about in the other videos where how to set up a table, which is in the vault, in the link below, you need multiple things. You need buildings, and you also need scatter terrain, things that will provide you cover as you move from place to place. And what you'll see in our battle reports is a lot of the MicroArt Studio stuff because it looks good and it is incredibly functional on the battlefield. There are some issues, like just the height of some of them don't quite work. They block too much rather than providing more cover. They provide more total cover, which means you can't see the other miniature. But other than that, I do find the functionality is good. So let's go through the three things. Assembly and durability, I'd give these guys, they're more an intermediate to advanced. So that kind of brings, I would say, that brings their ranking down a little bit because you want stuff that's easy to assemble. And then we have how they look, and they look fantastic. So they're one of the higher ranked ones out of all the ones I'm going to be reviewing here. And then lastly, we have functionality, and they're somewhere in the middle there because some of the stuff is super functional and some of it I don't really like using. So overall, 2 thumbs up for MicroArt Studios. I'll probably be giving 2 thumbs up for all these companies, not because they sent me it for free, but because they all have their pros as well as their cons. It's just that in a lot of things you'll see certain ones that I use more than others. So really you just have to kind of see which pieces you like. Like if you don't like the Habitations but you like these, well then buy these, don't buy the Habitations. If you like another company's buildings but not their catwalks, buy their buildings. And you can mix and match and all of that and make your own tables worth of terrain. So go ahead, click on the links below to see the other reviews as well as the tutorials on how to set up your table in a really cool way for awesome Infinity battle reports. This is Matthew from MiniWarGaming. Happy wargaming.
We work so you can play.